So I bring a sort of deeply personal perspective to this man. You know, one of the things that I've always loved about Ethan is his ability to recognize that he is in a position to help those of us who are maybe part of a marginalized society, to help people who maybe not at the moment have a voice. People like, you know, victims of domestic violence, or like the guys that he serves, the at-risk youth that Ethan works with at Portland West, or in my situation, part of the LGBT community. He always has stood up for the little person. And he does it with a passion and with an amount of integrity and character that I have never seen in another person. It is so easy for me to support him. But I want to give you a little bit of an example about the day I decided that Ethan was my guy. It's a personal story. Some of you have heard it before, but I don't mind sharing it again. I don't know if y'all remember back in 2005, there was this little thing called the non-discrimination bill that we fought really hard. I worked a little bit on that. And what I remember a very specific day up in Augusta when Governor Baldacci had actually signed the law, and we were all really excited, we were all really happy, but the ink was not dry on that paper when an hour and a half later at the Hall of Flags, our opponents, some of them belonging to the Christian Civic League, and you can boo if you want, that's okay. They decided they were going to have their own press conference where they were going to gather 50 or 60 of the most conservative clergy in the state and another 150 of their supporters. And they were going to have their own press conference that said they were going to start collecting signatures to overturn this law. And what we all decided, and when I say we all, I'm talking like 12 people. We all decided that from now on, when these people gather in a room to talk about us, from now on, when they try to convince people that we don't deserve the same rights and protections as everyone else, they're going to have to do it in front of us. And so we decided to make these sort of handmade signs that said, you know, like, Maine won't discriminate, I'm a citizen here too. And we stood in the back of the Hall of Flags. And I mean, I think there were 12 of us. And we just stood there, and part of our thing was, no matter what happens, we're not going to engage. We're just going to be silent witnesses to this. And they started their press conference. They showed this really horrible video about how horrible homosexuals were. And we stood there and we watched it, and we didn't say anything. But our presence started to sort of irritate and agitate some of the people that were in that crowd. And what they all decided to do was to sort of turn around and start yelling at us. And so we're standing there holding our signs, and these really, really angry people are screaming in our faces. And I often say, you could feel the spit on your face, that's how close they were. And I have to tell you, it was terrifying. It was terrifying because you could not imagine that people could hate you this much without knowing you. But they did. And I was the sort of organizer of this whole thing, so I knew that if I lose it, you know, the other 11 people are going to follow me out of the room, and this is going to fail. So I did everything I could to keep it together. But at one point, I was ready to explode, either in anger, or start crying, or I didn't know what was going to happen. And I felt this hand on my shoulder. And I heard Ethan's voice, and he said, "I'm right behind you if you need me." There would come a day when I could turn to him and say, "Ethan, I'm right behind you if you need me." I'm happy to say that this is the day. I know that you all have your own Ethan stories. I know that most people in this room have had a moment when he stood up for you, when you couldn't stand up for yourself. And I hope that you remember that moment. And I hope that you help us all on what I think is going to be a remarkable journey. So thanks so much for coming.